Greetings and welcome to another edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk about some comic book and other media news that has been making the rounds on the internet in the last few days. I want to start off with a report from WeGotThisCovered.com, who is reporting, based on information that they got from known leaker or known scoop getter Daniel Richman, that CBS is looking for an actor to play a younger Picard, perhaps on season 2 of Picard, or perhaps in a standalone series. It doesn't really say, but they are looking to bring us a younger version of Picard as part of their future Star Trek endeavors. And in the article from We Got This Covered, it talks about how James McAvoy would be a perfect candidate for that because he's already played a younger version of a character played by Patrick Stewart. And reportedly, he's up for it. He would be up for it. So that would be interesting. It would certainly be something that would, require them delving into, a period in Picard's life prior to TNG, which would be kind of cool, because we haven't seen very much of that, in Star Trek. They showed some of his pre-captain days during Next Gen, but not much, so it would be interesting to see that. And James McAvoy is a great actor, so that would be cool if he were to get the part, assuming that they are in fact looking to bring us such stories of a younger Picard. We'll have to see. According to Jerry Ryan, Picard Season 2 is going to start filming February 1st, delayed from, I guess, January 1st originally. So we'll know in due time. Sticking with reports from We Got This Covered, which they get from Daniel Richman, it's being reported that Lady Gaga is being looked at to play the title character in a movie based on the Bayonetta game, which came out a number of years ago. It was a pretty cool game. I don't usually like those kinds of games, those heavily Japanese-influenced games. Like, I've played a bunch of the Devil May Cry games, and I played Bayonetta, but I usually stay away from those games. I don't know, they're not always my cup of tea, but Bayonetta was just too hard to resist. Guns in her boots, her hair as a weapon. I think she used her hair as a weapon as well. How do you resist that? So it was a great game, and Lady Gaga is a really good actress, I think, in the right part anyway. And she apparently is a fan of the game who has played it recently, in fact. As opposed to, closer to the time that it came out. So that's something that would be good. An actor who's familiar with the source material and who gets the source material, which isn't always the case when they adapt, other media to TV and movies. So we'll have to see what becomes of that. Right now what I want to do is run a little bit of a trailer from The Walking Dead, the coming season, which is going to give us a look at the character of Lucille, Negan's wife, which is going to be played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan's real-life wife. So let's take a look at that real quick. So that'll be cool when we get to see that, because I like the Negan character. A lot of people bailed on the show around the time that Negan debuted because, a number of factors. The show was getting to be long in the tooth at that point, number one. Number two, his introduction was particularly brutal. And I think they kind of dragged out the Negan thing too long, initially. But I like the character, especially as they're starting to show him redeeming himself, because as I've said in previous videos, I'm a huge fan of redemption arcs, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a great actor. So it'll be interesting to see what he was like, you know, before he became quote-unquote Negan. And it'll be interesting to see him interact with his wife character, the character of his wife, because supposedly, as I understand the character, his sort of point of diversion for sort of turning bad was when he lost his wife. So I'm anxious to see that. Sticking with trailers, I want to show a little bit of, or maybe the whole thing, depending on how much I want to risk getting a copyright strike. The trailer for the Hawkeye show. I've seen it, and it looks pretty good. I really don't think I fully understand where they're trying to go, but it looks like a pretty good sort of espionage, you know, drama show. So let's take a look at that.
You know, I wish there was a way that I could let her know that we won. We did it.
We have a mission for you. A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know what it is and how to destroy it.
I retire for, what, like 5 minutes and it all goes to shit?
There's someone who wants to talk to you. I believe some of you know Kate Bishop.
Everyone who gets close to these things disappears.
Lucky us.
Are you up for this? Are you? Doesn't matter what you did, what you were. You go out there, you fight. And you fight to kill.
Hawkeye, you know, not a big favorite character, you know, for fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there's nothing wrong with the character. So, you know, a show in the Marvel Universe is always a good thing to check out, so I'm going to do that. But that's the trailer, so we can look forward to that. Switching over from Marvel to DC, Keanu Reeves is reportedly in talks or being considered to play Constantine in Justice League Dark, a live-action Justice League Dark. Again, this comes from WeGotThisCovered.com. I'm conflicted about this, and I wouldn't have been before Matt Ryan played the character on TV. My wife and I are huge fans of the Constantine film. We've watched like the last 20 minutes of it a million times, and we really liked the film. My wife is a fan of the comics that inspired it, which I believe are called, I forget the name, I'll have to put it up on the screen. It's not Hellraiser, it's something. I'll put it up on the screen. Hellblazer? Maybe it's Hellblazer. But anyway, she's a big fan of the comic as well, as a result of having been a fan of the film. And as a result of becoming a fan of the comic, she's a huge fan of Matt Ryan's portrayal of the character because it's closer to the comic, and because she fancies him. But I've come to enjoy his portrayal of the character as well. I like that he plays it as an English person. I like how, you know, I like English Constantine just as much as I like American accent Constantine. So I'm conflicted. I'd like to see Keanu Reeves play the character again because I liked him in the part, and that's what I'm used to in terms of feature film for Constantine. But I'd also like to see Matt Ryan in the part because he does such a great job with it on television. So I'm conflicted, but you know, we'll have to see how that plays out. I do have yet another trailer, and this time it's for the new Superman show, Superman and Lois Lane. It's one of those trailers that doesn't show you too many actual scenes from the show. It's just basically a voiceover of Superman kind of flying around. But let's run that just so you can see it.
We all begin as one version of ourselves. But as we grow, life changes us. Every moment shaping our character, shifting our priorities, stretching every fiber of our being, until we think we've lost ourselves to the stress of it all. But that's not true, because under the torn fibers is a stronger person, forged like steel, with the courage to fight for those we love. And what we thought was lost can be found in family.
So there's that. That's going to be a show that I'm going to check out just because I really like the Superman character. Not sure I'm going to love it, but we shall see. Last thing I want to talk about today is the backlash that has been, going on against Wonder Woman 1984 since it came out on Christmas Day. I sort of thought this was going to happen because when the plot details leaked a while back, people were already starting in with their talk about how it's going to be, woke, or how it's going to be anti-Trump, or how it's going to be anti-right-wing, and all of that. So I'm not surprised that now that the film's come out, these people are speaking up again. I am pleasantly surprised that there are just as many people saying, well, this was a decent movie. I thought it was really great. I gave it 5 stars in my initial review. That may have been a little too high. It might be closer to 4 stars than 5 now that I've thought about it. But, because 5 stars is really high praise. But I enjoyed it a lot, much better than I enjoyed Batman vs. Superman, though the extended cut was better, improved the movie for me. I liked it way better than Justice League. I may not once the Snyder Cut comes out. We'll see. I definitely liked it better than Man of Steel. I liked it better than Aquaman, which I liked better than those films that I just mentioned also, but not quite as much as the original Wonder Woman. I'm trying to think what other films have come out in the DC EU. That's really it. There was Shazam. Shazam's a completely different kind of movie, but I really like Shazam. Shazam was good, but people are just hating on this movie, and I don't understand it. One of the main critiques is that it has a message, and I think that's kind of crazy, because all media has a message going back to the beginning of literature. So I don't really understand why people don't get that. People just tend to have a problem with messaging, and they're doing the same thing to Batwoman. And they've been doing it since season 1, and it seems to have intensified now that they've cast a black woman to play the part in season 2. I think it was a bit of stunt casting. I think, you're doing a show about a character that is LGBT in the source material. So you cast an LGBT actress. Okay, but that actress also happened to be, perfect for the part, at least in terms of her look. So you can see why they probably would have gone with her anyway. But the recast, I think, is a little bit different. I think they cast, or they may have cast, a black woman for the sole purpose of casting a black woman. And I think they, went further and cast an LBGT black woman just for the sake of doing it. And if that's true, that would be disturbing. But the critiques the show is getting, without anybody having seen anything more than the trailer, by the way, which is just how they started doing it before season 1, is that it's going to be woke and that it's more message than story. I never saw that in season 1. I never saw where the message, like, dominated the show and where the message drove the story. I never saw that. I saw it with Supergirl in season 4. Big time. Batwoman season 1 did not do what Supergirl season 4 did. So I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how driven the stories of season 2 will be by agenda, whether it's, you know, smash the patriarchy or gay rights or what have you, because it hasn't come out yet. But, you know, I made a video a while back that talks about messaging in media, and I want to run what I had to say back then because I think I've already said it as well as it can be said. So I'm just going to run a clip of my old video and then come back real quick.
And I want to talk about that because this is a thing that's been going on lately, right? People are outraged that this show or this film or this entertainment entity, you know, I'm looking at you, Batwoman and Disney and Star Wars, have gone woke, you know, and have gone over the deep end into being platforms for political activism versus just being entertainment. And it rubs some people the wrong way. And I can see why they get this feeling. I can see where maybe some of that has occurred. And I see, you know, where a lot of it occurred a couple of seasons ago on Supergirl. A couple of seasons ago on Supergirl, they went woke big time with a season-long story arc about nationalism versus being more welcoming to immigrants. And it, of course, was translated to, for purposes of the show, to humans versus off-worlders, right? So they had this whole story-long season arc about a whole movement. I don't know if it was Earth-wide or just in Supergirl's city against, you know, beings from other planets living among humans. And it's not a message that I disagreed with, you know, the message being we should be, you know, we shouldn't be prejudiced against immigrants. We shouldn't be anti-immigrant, you know, in an extreme way. We should evaluate people as individuals or groups as, you know, individual groups. So I didn't disagree with the message. The problem I had was that it was way over the top. They just hit the audience over the head with it vigorously. It was very in your face and just over the top. I found it unpleasant. I really did, because, you know, I watched the show partly for the stories, partly because I like the women on the show. They're quite attractive. And so that's why I watch it. It's not high art, right? These superhero shows, they're not high art. I love superhero shows. I love superhero films. I think the Avengers movies were more high art than anything on the CW, you know? So it's not that comic books can't be high art. I'm not saying that. But this particular show is not high art, right? It's just a goofy little show about a superhero, and it's fun. It's fun to watch, okay? But this particular season, I think it was season 5, I'm not sure. It might have been season 4. They went gonzo crazy, you know, soccer balls to the wall with the messaging. It was over the top and just cringeworthy to the nth degree to watch. I only stayed with it because I enjoy the show, and I enjoy looking at the ladies in the costumes. But I'll tell you, if they had not reined it in the next season, I don't think that I would have kept watching. The following season, they cut most of it out. They didn't, go crazy with the messaging. They didn't hit the audience over the head anymore. They weren't in your face with the, political message or activist message. So I was glad for that, because I've been able to stay with the show. And it's not just because I like looking at the ladies. I think some of the character relationships are very cool and well written and a joy to take in. I find them, somewhat moving. So I'm being glib. I'm being flip with you about looking at the ladies in costumes. But I am glad they knocked it off for subsequent seasons, because they hadn't done it before this particular season. So it was out of the blue. And just didn't fit the show, and so I'm glad they didn't continue with it. And I can understand where people would be rubbed the wrong way by that, because it rubbed me the wrong way, and I agreed with the message. So there's definitely a danger of that, kind of thing occurring in any media. And I can see why people wouldn't want it to be in your face. But here's the thing, it seems to me like people don't want it at all. Like they're just opposed to messaging at all in media. And I think that's a little silly, actually, because anyone who's ever been a fan of sci-fi, fantasy, that kind of thing, this is how it's been for decades. Okay, the original Star Trek had a message. Sometimes it was a little in your face. But it always had a morality play at the center. Very many of the stories were about, moral issues and political issues. It was that way by design. Certainly, Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6, the original series film Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6 had activist type messages, right? Star Trek 4 was about, let's not screw up the planet so badly that we kill off a species or somehow do something that in the future we wish we hadn't done, because the consequence ends up being the destruction of the earth. So that was the huge message of Star Trek 4. And nobody complained back then that it was, woke. Of course, woke wasn't a thing, but nobody complained saying, oh, this stopped being entertainment. They're giving us a message. Just tell a story, buddy. Nobody said that. Everybody got it, and there wasn't this backlash to the fact that that film clearly took a standpoint on a socio-political issue. Star Trek 6, not the fan favorite among the original series films, but it was the same thing. It was a message about, not only conservation, given what happened to the Klingons in that story, but about, the Cold War and, the pros and cons of being closed-minded about people who have been, quote unquote, your enemy. It's about making peace, about not being stuck in old ways that are actually a detriment to you in the long run. So huge message, and there weren't all these people flipping out and making YouTube videos about, oh my God, it's a message piece. It's an activism deal. It should just be entertaining. Nobody did that. So I don't know what it is about why people can't handle that in the present. Again, Supergirl went too far that season. It was over the top. I mean, more so than the message in Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6. It was just, they went out of their way to like to hit you over the head with it. So it was bad. But, you know, Next Gen was always about some kind of moral social issue. Deep Space Nine, the whole issue with the Dominion War brought up all kinds of you know, social issues and political issues. So Deep Space Nine was about messaging and had morality plays. Next Gen did. Voyager totally did. You know, the original series did. So this is something, and people didn't flip out about it. The fact that Picard sort of has a message has people, you know, just beside themselves over the fact that it's woke. I don't know. I think people have forgotten what's come before. Look, Frankenstein, the novel Frankenstein was a political commentary, a social commentary, okay? Dracula was a social commentary, political commentary in a way. Gulliver's Travels absolutely was by design political commentary. You know, and these are the classics, literally the classics. Animal Farm was absolutely a political social commentary. 1984. Okay, again, these are the classics, and nobody like flipped out about it. 1984 was a movie. The themes of 1984 have been repeated in all kinds of media, and people don't flip out and say, oh, it's messaging, they need to not do that. Why the sudden change? Why do we flip out now if maybe She-Hulk might be a little bit messagey, if that's a word, you know, or that Batwoman might have been a little preachy, like, which by the way, I didn't really notice. Certainly not compared to Supergirl, that one season. So I don't understand it. You know, South Park every week for 20 years has had something to say about social issues. X-Men, the whole concept of X-Men, at least since the animated series and in the, you know, the films, the first two films anyway, were heavy with, you know, social commentary. The whole issue was, you know, just like on Supergirl, mutants shouldn't be treated like scum of the earth and like second-class citizens because they happen to have mutant, you know, genes. That was the whole message of the X-Men, was that the persecution of these people was wrong. Nobody flipped out about it. Nobody said, oh God, it's politically active. It's political. People just enjoyed it, even though it was that. So, I mean, MASH, again, one of the classic TV shows, was political commentary every frame. You know, it was couched in comedy, but same as on South Park. But that's what it was, people. And we don't look back at these shows and go, oh God, so political, terrible that is. So I don't understand what the problem is today. I don't know, maybe there's just too much of it all at the same time. Maybe it's a question of, I don't know. I think it's right to be concerned. I think what you don't want, okay, is political commentary that's dialed up to 12, right? You know, like Supergirl that one season, you don't want to be hit over the head with it. But the idea that entertainment can't have a message and take a political stand is insane. You know, on the original series and on TNG and maybe on DS9, they sort of would present what you could call both sides of the argument, right? There would be people that spoke up for handling things one way and people who spoke up for handling things another way or seeing things another way. And so you would kind of get both sides, so it wasn't lopsided messaging. So maybe people didn't have a problem with it for that reason. South Park does the same thing. And maybe what they're looking for is more balance. I don't know. So what I would say is let's not have messaging. I would say let's have balanced messaging. But nobody's saying that. They're saying let's not have messaging. And I don't think that's a good idea, and I don't think they really want that. I think that the other, you know, entertainment vehicles that they've enjoyed over the years, these same people have been that, and they enjoyed it. So I think what we should focus on is having entertainment that isn't politically lopsided, because that's not cool. And that's what this pretty much was. It was politically lopsided on Supergirl. You know, you had the other side saying their piece, but none of it was being said reasonably. They were just, you know, all the time. So it wasn't really fair. And it was dialed way, way up, like way, way up. And I don't think that was good. So I can see not wanting that, but I don't understand what this pushback is against messaging in general. And that's what we're hearing. We're not hearing, hey, it's turned up too high. Hey, it's too lopsided. We're hearing, don't do messaging and entertainment. I mean, that's just not realistic. It's not realistic based on what's come before, and it's not realistic based on how things should be. There should be messaging and entertainment. It's always been that way. People love Star Trek and Doctor Who and, you know, so forth, because it makes you think about stuff. That's the whole point. That's why we love it. So to these people, I would say, try to chill out. Try not to freak out unless you see it really lopsided and really over the top. That would be my advice.
So yeah, messaging in media goes all the way back to, you know, Dante's Inferno. You know, it goes back to Gulliver's Travels, Frankenstein, and it's, you know, it's even found in media that you wouldn't think to find it in. In other words, it's there even though you never picked up on it. And because you never picked up on it, you never had anything to say about it. You know what I'm saying? The show Dinosaurs, that goofy sort of people in rubber suits, prehistoric yet not prehistoric show that focused on a dinosaur society, had messaging. If nowhere else during the run, in the very final episode, there was a message about, you know, conservation versus not taking care of the planet and so forth. And, you know, Quantum Leap, the whole show was messaging. In that every time the main character jumped into another body, well, not every time, but most of the time that the character jumped into another body, he was there to right some sort of wrong that was being perpetrated against someone. And they didn't shy away from wrongs that had to do with race or wrongs that had to do with gender. They covered that stuff, just like Star Trek did. And nobody cared then. Nobody hammered that show and said, this show is all message and no, you know, it's all agenda and no story. It's agenda-driven story. Nobody knocked it for that. But there it was. And now all these years later, we have shows doing similar stuff and they can't stop knocking it. And I'll never understand that. You know, again, it can be over the top. Supergirl Season 4, the messaging was over the top. They did it badly. But I rarely see that. So I don't understand why people think they have such a low tolerance for this when they've tolerated it for so long. You know, getting back to Wonder Woman, one of the complaints about Wonder Woman is that the plot is about a superhero fighting against a rich guy who tries to take over everything, and a lady who went cat crazy and, you know, thinks she's a cat. And that's a crazy plot. But they didn't say anything about it when it was the plot of Batman Returns in like 1989, only reversed. right? Where the superhero was Batman instead of a woman. And the bad guy trying to take over everything was the Christopher Walken character. And Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was the crazy cat person. So why is that plot being dinged now? Those characters, Cheetah and Max Lord, are from the source material, the comic book. So where are they getting this stuff that the plot of this movie was woke or anti, greed for the sake of messaging versus telling a story, when that was the character in the source material years and years ago? And they just, brought it to live action. So, I don't know. I think people are just too sensitive today. And they don't understand that the whole point of media is to... It's like other art. It's a commentary on the human condition. The good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. It always has been, because it comes from the human psyche, which, perceives all of these things and lives through all of these things. Art has always been an expression of the world around us. And people are going to have thoughts about the things around them that are going to carry over into their art. And it's going to be perceivable by the audience. That's just what art is. And again, it can be ham-fisted, and it was in Supergirl Season 4, and probably in other things that I've seen. But most of it isn't heavy-handed, and I don't think we should be beating Batgirl over the head, or Batwoman rather, over the head for, because go back to the 60s and look at Batgirl in the 66 show. I looked real hard for clips of her saying things similar to lines that Ruby Rose delivered in Season 1 of Batwoman, about how the suit would be perfect once it fits a woman, or how she'd be damned if she'd let a man get credit for a woman's job. Because I was sure that she must have said something, Batgirl must have said something like that during the 66 to 69 Batman show. I couldn't find any where she said something very similar to that. But she did, play the part of an empowered female, keeping up with the boys and giving the boys as good as she got. That was very much her demeanor and very much her character, and her lines were cheeky, toward that sort of type of character. The lines that type of character would deliver. And nobody, I don't think then, I wasn't here, then, but, I don't remember in the 70s when it was on TV, anybody saying that stuff. And I haven't heard anybody say it in the last 30 years about that character and about that show, that it was, pushing an agenda of female empowerment or, smashing the patriarchy or whatever. But that character very much embodied that sort of spirit. Why? Because women's lib was a thing at the time, and because the battle of the sexes has been going on since forever. And it finds its way into our art. You can be sure that the Bionic Woman said stuff like that about working in a boys' club, among Steve Austin and Oscar Goldman and all those guys. I have no doubt that from time to time she had a line similar to the lines that Ruby Rose delivered in the first season of Batwoman. I'd have to go back and look, but it would surprise me very much if they never presented, the Bionic Woman character as a character that was keeping up with the boys and giving as good as she got to the boys. It's just something that's always been in media. So, not on Leave It to Beaver, but in other media, it's been there for a long time. So why people are deciding to stand up and give it a hard time now, I don't know. Obviously, politics are really, really strained these days. or heightened these days because of social media and 24-hour cable news, that we didn't have back in the day, as it were. So I don't know, maybe that's it. Maybe people are just riled up because these things are being pointed out over and over and over again, and just sort of thrown at us constantly by, outlets and other people on social media and the 24-hour news channels. I don't know, but I think it's sad. I think the best media is media that has some kind of message that makes us look at ourselves and, makes us think. And really examines the human condition. So, I don't know. We'll have to see if it's super woke when it comes out in a couple of months. The Batwoman season 2. Which I will do. I can't say I'm going to love it. I didn't really love the first season. And the reason I didn't love it is because I found the story to be horrible. About the sister and all that business. And she was just a bad villain. And they used her too much. I wanted to see Batwoman fight other things and other people. Not just this constant business with her sister. So that's what I didn't like about it. But we'll see how season 2 goes when it comes out. That's all the news I have. That's all the stuff I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to get out of here. I will be back when the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 airs in a couple of days. Until then, my friends, peace and long life.